Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar this evening. My name is Shanna Brunt. I'm the head of marketing and communications at Fairfood, and I'm the host of this event tonight. We'll be discussing a new project in which we're going to be realizing living income coffee, because that is harder than it sounds. Here is a little program for this evening. My colleague Sander will explain why we at Fairfood think traceability and transparency matters if you want to reach actually good food. Menno from Trabocca will tell you a bit more about the road of Trabocca to fair coffee, and Bert from Simon Lévelt will explain why they jumped on board of this project. We're going to conclude with a Q&A for which everyone can post questions or critical remarks, whatever, in the chat on the right. This chat is managed by my colleague Wanda, who should be there by now. There she is. These are the speakers. Bert Jongsma, Managing Director from Simon Lévelt, General Manager from Trabocca, Menno Simons, and Sander de Jong, my colleague and Managing Director at Fairfood. Before we move on, I want to do a little poll, just for us to get an idea of who's in the room with us. You should see this on your screen right now. If you can all hit one of the options. A lot of food companies, coffee, Menno, your competitors, some non-governmental organizations, tech company, and a lot of others. Thanks. Sander, over to you.
Yes, thanks, Shanna, and hello everyone, and good to see you all in this this webinar, even though I can't see you, but as a matter of speech. So my name is Sander de Jong. I'm director of Fairfood. Fairfood, we're an NGO founded 20 years ago because we saw that too little attention was paid to poverty, hunger, and human rights violations that are hidden in our everyday food, and that's still relevant today. So we're here to make our food system more future-proof, so the people who produce our food can live in dignity while respecting the environment. A few numbers. So about 70% of the food that is produced worldwide comes from smallholder farmers. In the case of coffee, it's even 80%. Around 500 million is estimated, and around 2 billion people depend on the livelihoods of these farmers. The problem is that most of the farmers live in poverty. About 50% have to earn less than $2 a day, €2 a day. If you look at coffee, in the case of coffee, most coffee is produced by smallholder farmers, around 20 million. And these are mostly families that have coffee as their so-called cash crop. So that means that their income is dependent on the coffee production. And also these families just have to live from just a few euros a day. So the impact of the price they receive for this coffee is enormous. And the price they receive for this coffee is just the problem, because it has been too low for decades. So low that it can't even cover their household expenses, education for their children, transportation, healthcare, and in many cases it can't even cover their own production cost. So for the past decades, Fairfood has been working with many organizations, also in this webinar, on the concept of living incomes and living wages. Because we see and we believe that if you want to pay a fair price, if you want to measure, if you want to see if you're if you're paying a fair price, the best way to do that is by measuring a living income. And a living income is the money that is required for a family to receive a decent standard of living in a specific region. And only when this family can earn a living income they can invest in a better future for themselves, and also invest in a better in their surrounding environments. Now, one of the problems in the coffee sector is that many of these supply chains are very long and opaque. You don't see, because you don't have, because of all these steps in the process, you don't really have an eye of what's happening in the first mile at the farm level. And you can't always see how much these farmers are being paid. So that's why Fairfood started a few years ago with the development of Trace. Trace is a blockchain-enabled traceability tool that helps companies such as Trabocca and Simon Lévelt to better manage the complexity behind their supply chains. It also helps them to better source in a more responsible way with knowing what is happening on the ground and if these farmers are paid a fair price. We made a small animation explaining Trace a little bit better.
Working in food, you care about your products and your profit. Working in a modern food company means you also care about people and the planet. Showing you care starts with sharing information about who made what, where, when, and how. Transparency. Food is already becoming more transparent. Governments are demanding it, consumers are choosing it, and big companies are investing in it. Now your trading partner wants to join forces with you to make your product chain more transparent and ready for the future. Connect with your partner on Trace and safely share the story of your product. The future of food is transparent. Join today.
Yes. So Trace is a traceability system, farm-to-fork system that allows you to follow every step of the way. So digitalizing the first mile, the farmers, including them, so they have a better idea of they are better informed and can make better choices, and also the last mile, the consumer, allowing them to follow every step of the way and verify the integrity of the supply chains behind their food. We are working with blockchain technology because it enables the creation of a truly connected food system. And the thing that we think is so unique about this technology is that it requires a virtual handshake to approve data. Even farmers, no matter how far away they may be, can give their digital thumbs up to verify important information. So farmer verified claims instead of third-party claims from, for example, voluntary standards. Fairfood, Trabocca, and Simon Lévelt have a shared vision that all involved in the production of food should earn at least a living income. We think it's the bare minimum. It's not a treat. Last year, Trabocca started working with Trace, which led to promising results on traceable coffee, but it also showed us that a lot of data on incomes is missing to understand the depth of the problem. So in this project, we will trace the supply chain, two supply chains actually, and Menno will tell you more about it, and analyze the price gap that contributes to earning a living income. We want to determine the benchmark for living income in the specific region and combine that with benchmarks for the cost of production in Ethiopia. And once we have that, we can calculate the percentage of farmers that already earn a living income. And we also know what the gap is for the other farmers. What we think is unique about this project is that we are combining traceability software technology to close the income gap. we're able to track and trace every transaction and see if the prices paid are high enough. So before I give it to Menno, one of the biggest challenges we face in the coming years is the lack of trusted data. So it's important that for all food companies, that if you start communicating on claims such as fair price paid, it's important that you want to back this up with data that is from the ground. And that's why we're working with this blockchain technology and this farm to fork transparency to just do just that. It helps you to create trustworthy product stories and promises such as for living income paid. Transactions that are recorded, they are there forever, right? So and they can't be tampered with, and it helps companies to put human rights due diligence in practice. So thank you, and I want to give it back to you, Shanna.
Thanks, Sander. Menno, you can go right ahead. You're muted. Menno, we can't hear you yet.
Yes, better now?
Yes.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Menno. I'm a founder of Trabocca, a green coffee trader specialized in Ethiopian coffees since 2003. I've been in Ethiopia since 2000 already, and I also am the founder of Trabocca Coffee, a coffee roaster, a small one in Holland. So basically, for the last 20 years, I've been daily seeing the challenges that we have with coffee, all different types. Why we do this, I think it's good to explain a little bit first about that, and then I will switch quickly to our previous project that Sander already mentioned, the blockchain. And basically the new project, is a follow-up on the blockchain. That's the living income project that I will explain a bit more about what we do. But first, why do we do these projects? I always forget to mention that I started both companies because I really love great coffee, and I did not start both companies to help poor farmers. And that's just the way it is. But very soon I did understand that they basically go hand in hand. If you want to ask a bit more from farmers, you need to be helping them, and you need to have trust by the farmers. Otherwise, you will not get anywhere. That's just a reality, and it makes sense, to be honest. So basically, since day one, it's been in our DNA to work in this way. We do feel responsible, especially with our experience, and we have our knowledge now over almost 20 years, and we also have the power to make a difference. So in the past, we introduced, for example, the eco-pulpers in Africa even. We have done many other projects like organic composting project, which is of course important. We had the Operation Cherry Red, where we pay a little bit extra to farmers if they do a little bit extra on the quality. We help them with the terms and the rules how to do it. So many projects. Introduction of grain probacs, for example. But everything is always focused on creating better coffee. Higher quality, so you can pay a higher price, and it helps in the end all parties involved. But coming to the question, are we responsible as a coffee trader? If you look at that way, I would say the answer is no, because it's a joint responsibility, and everybody involved should feel the responsibility. That includes the consumer, and like Sander already said, it's a very specialty coffee, let me put it that way, and not just coffee, but specialty coffee is a very complex supply chain. It's over 30 people who actually touch the coffee before it's in your cup. So that gives a little bit of insight in how complex it is. So I think we need to join forces. That's what I also like about this partnership that we have here with Simon Lévelt and with Fairfood, of course, because it shows that if everybody puts their efforts together and supports each other, this is where we're going to make a difference. And I think that is a beautiful thing to see. We hear a lot of things about direct trade, for example, or we pay a good price to the farmer. What is a good price? 99% is just bullshit, if you ask me, because it's not true. They have no clue what they're saying, and maybe 1% of the few who do direct trade in the right way can actually say that they're making an impact. I just wanted to say that because I see a lot of claims everywhere that just don't make sense. And I also think that showing the problem is not our first goal. It's also not our goal to come with a solution, but it's our goal to actually implement the solution and manage it and make it measurable, so that we are better equipped to explain to the people involved that are not really aware of what's going on. And I think that's a crucial point, and this is where Trace helps, because it's verifiable, and all the projects that we're going to do will just bring true facts and true numbers, which will give us a good insight. So bringing awareness is key, I think. Making complex issues visible, bring key players together, and have clear goals with all our own responsibilities. Just make it happen. So it's more like a holistic approach, I think, that we need to look at. The reality is that you can still buy a kilo of roasted coffee for €4 if you want. That's very painful, and this is happening in a very, very large scale. This is not the specialty coffee market. This is the other coffee market. I always make that distinction like this. So the issue is, of course, not only coffee related. We will focus on coffee, but of course we see this problem with many other products. So blockchain with Fair Food, we developed and launched successfully last year, the first blockchain through the Trace platform. That is, it really worked well, and it feels really good. I think we will show a little bit later on how that worked. It's a good thing that you can actually say we paid this price to the farmer, and that's a clear, verified price. And now the question will come: is that price enough? So luckily, we have been awarded again by RVO with a serious subsidy that helps us a lot doing things like this as a coffee trader. Like I said, it's not our core business, but it's a big part, and having support by them like this is, it's really helpful, and it makes things happen. So first I want to show a very brief video. It's more focused on the blockchain. So Shana, if you can launch that one.
Hey there. Drink coffee, do you? How much do you pay for a cup? Ever thought about how much of that is going to a coffee farmer? Let's find out. Today we are sharing the story of your coffee, step by step, starting with her and him and him. Through picking, processing, transport, milling, this big old ship, storage, roasting, and all the way to your cup of coffee. Together with our friends at Fair Food and their blockchain solution Trace, we will make the Suko Kudo supply chain fully transparent, so we can find out if the coffee growers from Guji can earn a living income. Your journey in pursuit of great traceable coffee starts here.
We can go back to the slides. Yeah, just a little movie to bring up the issue that we're all facing here. And now we'll continue with the living income project. We have only a few slides, but I think they will show what we're about to do. Next, please. I can do that, right? Yeah. Income, our project goals. Now, of course, it's been mentioned already. We like to get an insight in what the actual price we pay if that's really enough for living income standard, a standard that I always have to specify it to a specific region. Even within Ethiopia, there are different standards probably. So we will be using a KIT, Royal Institute of the Tropics, to help us to benchmark and check all the income and in that region. So income of a farmer is not only by coffee, of course. They might be selling other stuff. They might be working somewhere or have additional income in another way. All this should be measured. Of course, we need to look at the family, how they look. Usually in Ethiopia, the average is about 7 members. So they all need to be able to live from that living income. So that's a lot of work to do. And of course, there's a lot of challenges, especially now in Ethiopia. There's a lot of unrest politically going on. And even for us, for the last 20 years, I've been going for 3-4 times a year, more or less. But the last year and a half, we were not able to go to the fields. And, luckily, we were able to go 3 weeks ago, at least to Addis and see our suppliers and make discussions, agreements, and see our team members in Addis. But that will make it difficult. I'm sure we will work around with local people, but just to give an idea about the reality, it's going to be a lot of work. So that's one of the things. The benchmark will be interesting to see. I have to give a side note here that we are looking at Guji, and Guji has typically larger outgrowers, so they have more land, they have more coffee, so their income is higher. And the coffee prices in Guji are relatively high in the world market already. So if we are successful here, that doesn't mean that we are saving the world. There will be a lot of challenges for sure. So basically we want to get the insight. Is the price that we are paying, is that enough based on all the facts that we will get on the living income standard? And if that's not the case, what are we going to do? There's like 3 options that you can do. You can increase the price, you can lower the cost, and of course you can create additional income. Increasing the price usually goes hand in hand with higher quality. So giving all the support to farmers for proper farm management to make higher quality coffee is something that we've been doing since day one. And I strongly believe in that one still. Usually when you take better care of the plants, you also get a higher yield. So a higher price versus higher yields will definitely have an effect on at least on the income on the coffee. So those go hand in hand. Of course, there's other ways to lower costs, to become more efficient maybe. But creating additional income is also an interesting one. So intercropping could be something. Carbon credits is something that's coming up. These farmers have a lot of trees, so they should be paid for their credits that they store, the carbon credits. And that's not yet the case. So, of course, there's all kinds of initiatives going on. So we're all waiting for that. But the total should be the solution, I think, for those farmers. And even if the living income is right, and based on all the information that we have, I think we can still give a helping hand and maybe give them a higher income. I think that's another responsibility that we always have as well. So using the living income project in Guji as a case study model to explore and expand projects in other countries where we source, of course, that's definitely in line with what we want to do. But like I mentioned, Guji is a good example. We buy a lot of coffee there, and we buy a lot of coffee in Ethiopia. So Ethiopia is easy for us. But I think there's other countries that probably face maybe even less positive news when we do a check like this. But we're definitely going to do this because the whole idea about this is that you face the truth, and then we find and go find and look for solutions and see if we can make it happen. Yeah, it's a tough one, the last one. So I hope we can start with this and have a really professional, clear view on everything. We come with solutions, and we can show that the solutions will, after implementation, will actually work. And then I think we can be ready for the next challenge and step to another region in Ethiopia or to Kenya, Peru, Colombia, anywhere. Yeah, that's it from my side so far. So I give it back to you, Shanna.
Thanks, Menno. Thanks for the explaining and the telling of your transparent story. Bert, I want to give the floor to you. You're muted. I can't hear you, Bert.
Is it on now?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. My name is Bert Jongsma. I've been with Simon Lévelt since 2017. Previously, I was managing director with Fairtrade Original, so I'm quite familiar with the concept of living income. It's great to team up with Trabocca and Fairfood because we complement each other, and we share the same vision on fair pricing for coffee farmers. There has been poverty among farmers in developing countries for many years now, and it's a tough problem to tackle. By doing this project, we can hopefully contribute to paying a living wage to farmers. I have a short movie to introduce Simon Lévelt, the specialty stores. Can you start it, the movie? Yes, thank you. Simon Lévelt is a specialty store for premium organic coffee and tea. We're founded in 1826 and still a family business with family values. It has grown now to more than 40 specialty stores in the Netherlands and in Belgium. And we have an assortment of 25 varieties of coffee and 125 varieties of tea. And as an organization, we found our happiness in exceeding your expectations, and are happy to give you a personal advice so you can enjoy freshly roasted coffee and carefully selected tea at home. Premium organic coffee, that's how we call it, and it means that we always choose quality and never give in to it. It's a little bit the same as what Menno said. He loves the product also very much. The choice for a fully organic range is for us the most natural thing in the world. Coffee grown with fertilizer and artificial pesticides, that is not normal to us, and we think it's not necessary. We believe that the best specialties can be organic by default, and we choose rather a pure product over a perfect product. Simon Lévelt participates in the Living Income Project because we believe that everyone in the coffee chain should be able to earn a living income, so that current and future generations of farmers have a good future perspective with the cultivation of coffee. And together with Trabocca, our partner for organic coffee from Ethiopia, and Fairfood, the expert in making supply chains transparent, we want to show that living income can be put into practice as an income standard for coffee farmers. In addition to the Living Income project with Trabocca and Fairfood, we also participate in a True Price project in Colombia together with the Coffee Quest. Calculating the true price in Colombia has more or less the same goal as the living income project we do. We can share knowledge and we gain in both projects with others, and hopefully we can pay more to coffee farmers. We can pay a fair price for their produce. And even though that we would like to do that already today, it's not always easy. It's hard to get the price to the farmer instead of to other people in the coffee chain. Our role in the Living Income Project is to involve customers and change their behavior. But how important is sustainability to consumers? It is certainly not the first time that sustainable coffee is being promoted among consumers. On a regular basis, research is done to find out more about consumers' attitude and behavior regarding sustainability. And then I want to share some relevant insights from 2 surveys. The first survey is Dossier Duurzaam. It is a yearly research into consumer attitudes towards sustainability. And one of the outcomes of this survey is that 3/4 of consumers believe that companies should make a positive contribution to society, environment, and people's well-being. But only 30% of consumers think that companies do this. Half of consumers pay attention to sustainability when making a purchase, and 4 out of 10 say they are willing to pay more, which isn't good news. In short, consumers find sustainability increasingly important and say that they're willing to pay more for it. Yet, time and time again, it appears that consumers consider sustainability more important during a research than during the actual purchase of a product. The advisory firm Deloitte conducts an annual survey in which various aspects of supermarkets are examined. And one of the questions is, what do you think are the most important aspects of a good supermarket? Taking the previous research into account, one would think sustainability is quite important. The opposite is true. 40% answers that both price and location of the shop are the most important aspects. A wide range of fair trade products is important to only 3% to the consumers. That's equally important as a good bike shed and less important than a well-functioning shopping cart. Apparently, consumers' attitudes towards sustainability are not the same as their behavior. Why am I sharing these insights with you? It is not to maneuver Simon Lévelt into an underdog position, although we have a difficult task to try and convince consumers to change their behavior. In general, it is not for Simon Lévelt. It's not easy for Simon Lévelt to persuade consumers to make better or more sustainable choices. And if they do, they often come to our specialty stores anyhow. What we can do is tell a good story about the projects we offer for sale. Our franchisees are storytellers and can thus inspire consumers, who in turn can inspire others. The personal advice of our franchisees plays an important role in the decision-making process of our customers. In this way, we can make a positive contribution to the Living Income Project and draw attention to the importance of a living income for coffee farmers. Earlier this year, we ran a campaign to promote the benefits of organic coffee and tea to a wider audience. We use online and offline marketing strategies to increase the number of consumers we reach. And we do this both in our stores and outside the store. And we do it on packaging as well as on our point of sales materials. Through our training platform, franchisees and store employees are informed about campaigns. They are informed about spotlight products, and we train them to apply storytelling in sales. We can thus use our lessons we have learned from our organic campaign to increase our impact when it comes to addressing sustainability issues. And hopefully we are well equipped to also tell about a successful living wage project. With the premium organic coffee from the farmers in the Guji region in Ethiopia, for which a fair price has been paid, we have a special asset. It is one of the most sustainable coffees available in the Netherlands. And with this project, we are raising the bar for all players in the coffee sector. The louder we say this, the greater the chance other players will also act. Because if no one puts living income into practice, there is no urgency. So that's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Bert, for that. I see some questions already in the chat, some interesting ones. I want to make sure that everyone who's in the room knows that they can post any questions and remarks in the chat, just once more. Menno, you already mentioned some of the interventions or examples of interventions that could help raise the income of the farmer. I see, for example, Yuka from Wageningen University, who says, I'm going to read this out loud. There are many farmers for whom the price would need to be increased tenfold or more to earn a living income because they produce very low volumes. It would be good if the data allows for analyzing whether farmers have the potential to earn a living income through price or whether other measures are needed as well. Sander, I think Menno and Sander, this is an interesting remark for the both of you. Menno, you mentioned that in Guji, farmers tend to have more land. I'm not sure if there are smaller farmers involved in the project, but also Sander, maybe you have some ideas about, I mean, we've done other projects with nutmeg farmers in Indonesia who did actually have only a small piece of land. What are other measures that are possible to increase their income?
I can explain maybe a little by a better example that we have in Kenya, for example, a project that we do. We found out that there's only 2 kilos of red cherries per tree harvested. And if you go to the research center in Kenya, they will show you trees that have 40 kilos. So to me, there was a signal. There's just not knowledge transferred to the farmers, and maybe 40 is way too much. But let's make it 10 kilos, which our agronomist says that's easily feasible. And we also pay double the price compared to the local markets. Then you're already having 10 times more income. And this can be done in a year and a half, 2 years, if you do it properly. Just an example of what you can do on the coffee tree. But of course, if that's not enough, then there could be a stage that you have to tell the farmers not to grow coffee, if you are being honest, and maybe grow something else or advise them on intercropping. This is how I started with Trabocca 6 years ago to introduce vanilla in Ethiopia. It does not exist in Ethiopia, so we're growing it in a coffee farm. Unfortunately, due to the lower altitude that we need for vanilla, we could not grow it at Sukukuto and Mordekov in Guji. We tried, but the vanilla didn't work. So those are all options, to increase a bit of revenue for the farmers. But a good question.
Yeah, I if I may fully agree with what you just said, Menno, and what we also see in many discussions is talking about the subject of living incomes and higher prices paid, that you tend to get stuck in a more almost a theoretical discussion on what is a good price paid. And we want to go beyond this point, beyond the discussion and beyond the theoretical chit-chat, and go into the field and really assess what is a fair price. And this is exactly why I'm really proud of this cooperation here, is because there's what Menno also said, there's so much talking in this industry, but there's not much walking. And for us as an NGO, we are highly and we haven't, as I said, it's our mission to transition towards a more fairer food system. We cannot do that alone. We have to work with companies such as Simon Lévelt and Trabocca and many others to really do it. And it's sometimes you don't have all the answers when you start, but you have to start walking, and that's why what we're doing. And we know that in some cases, we will work with over 600 farmers, 650, I believe, somewhere around it. I can tell you already that not all of these farmers have a future in coffee farming, and they will not be able to earn a living income because they simply have too little farmland and too low yields to get a proper income from it. So the focus, I think, is also after doing this, focus on the farmers that have a perspective, that are able to grow in yields, and combined with a higher price and other interventions, such as, for example, carbon sequestration, paying farmers for their carbon sequestration. All combined can add up to a good price for these farmers. And that's what we're aiming at.
Yeah. Koen Snijers also has a good point. He's saying the same, that it might be unlikely to convince coffee roasters to pay 5 to 10 times higher price to reach living income. So he's asking, do you agree that as coffee buyers, we should only take up responsibility for a smaller part of this living income gap? What do you think of that?
Yeah, good question. This is, of course, the reality, I think. How far do people want to go with paying a higher price? That's a big question. I always make the example, if you take one of the best coffees in the world and you make a liter of coffee out of that, then the actual cost price on the product is so low compared to any other drinks that we use. So in that perspective, coffee, why, for example, is an espresso in Italy €1, and why does Starbucks charge 5-6 euros for it? I mean, it's there's also a bit of a gap there. So I think there's room from both sides to improve, and then I'm still positive that we can fix it. But yeah, of course, you cannot ask 10 times higher for green coffee to a coffee roaster, because he will be out of business.
Yeah.
But maybe. Bert can say something about this.
Yeah, I think research shows that consumers are willing to pay maybe 10% more for a sustainable product. But actually, I'm not very sure if that is the case. What I can say is how we personally like to do it. I don't believe that we should charge our consumers a higher price for this coffee. Because what we are going to do is acting normal. It's normal to pay farmers a living price, and why then charge extra money for it? I think we should pay the price anyhow, and that's what we are doing nowadays already. If we help farmers in the conversion to organic, we pay them from the start of that project the premium for organic, and because we want to help them to make that step, and we don't add that to our selling price. And I think many more companies should try to do that, to solve the problem themselves. And if the average price goes up, that's okay, but we don't want to change the price. So I think I would like to explain to customers what the real price of our coffee is compared to a non-sustainable coffee, because you can help them to understand the problem better, but not charge them a higher price. It always feels like a fine to me.
This is a nice bridge to a comment Rut Vermeulen made. She's asking, should consumers have the decision power, or would legislation on due diligence here and in production countries not be more effective and raise the bar for all? Sander, is it something you want to react to?
Well, yeah, I mean, in the end, it should not be the consumer to make a political choice on good or bad. That would be very strange and weird, and unfortunately, it's the case. Legislation on due diligence, it's what we highly advocate for years already. So yes, that is the next step. But the problem with such legislation is how can you follow up on it, and how can you make sure that you're doing what you should do? Because, in many cases, as I explained, supply chains are opaque, they're intransparent. Companies simply don't know who their suppliers are. They know who their first tier suppliers are, but they don't know who their second tier and third tier, let alone their farmers are. And they, in this due diligence that will be effective in a few years from now, they have full responsible for the full for their negative impact in the whole supply chain. So that is also why we're urging companies to start working on preparing themselves and have technologies and partnerships such as such traceability software in place and start experimenting with it, because in a few years from now it is legislation that will be in place.
Yeah.
So long answer short, it should not be the consumers, it should be the companies to raise the bar.
Yeah. Menno has left the room.
Menno found it is simply too boring webinar.
I hope he finds his way back. Otherwise, it's just the three of us from here on out. Yeah, actually, this question was from Menno, but I think, Sander, you're actually more equipped to answer it anyway. It's from Ben Stel. He's asking, what are the practical implications of using blockchain technology for your operational staff, or in this case, Trabocca's operational staff? And this part I like in particular, do you think that it is scalable to the conventional trading houses?
Yes. So scalability is key. Otherwise, we're not in the game for small scale pilots or other. So that's what we're aiming for at the back end of the software we develop. And so it communicates with all existing ERP systems, etc. Is it in place? Yes. Is it already perfect? No. So we need to work with many of you to make the software, the technology even better, and have proper APIs to connect with your current systems, etc. But it's workable. If I can do the answering for Menno, it works, it functions, and it's scalable. He's back.
Yeah. Press the wrong button, I think.
We were afraid that you thought the webinar was too boring for you.
No. Press the wrong button on the second screen. Yeah.
Sander, I think I want to elaborate a little bit more on that answer. Because I mean, myself working at Fairfood, I know, of course, a bit about this answer, but can you also tell a bit about the underground, who is using it? And I mean, we do the trainings with the middleman usually. How intensive is the workload using this on the ground?
This depends in the supply chains we're working with. So it also depends in the level of professional, the level of how professionalized the supply chains are. We are developing this software to be able to work in the most remote areas with the most low-tech interventions that are possible. So the first thing we do is try to get from the paper registration, get it into, let's say, very basic Excel spreadsheets. And we can already use very, very basic Excel spreadsheets to upload that data to the blockchain ledger. So that's the mere pure basic start.
Yeah.
And from there we improve. And it's focused on, already many information is already in place, right? So local producers or local buyers already have a list of the farmers they buy from. They already have the data on their address or their location or their, so there's already data available, and it's a matter of just already uploading that data in the system and take it from there.
Yeah. Then in line with that is a question that's very close to my heart. How do you, because you just mentioned addresses and information like that, data like that, how do you deal with a farmer's privacy?
Yeah, so that's a very important part. So many times there's a misconception if we talk about blockchain and open source and that data it's on, it's out there, it's in the streets and for everyone to see and use. That's not the case. So the way it is designed, it is, the data is, it is the ones who have the data own the data. So in this case, if farmers have the data, they own it, and they should be able to receive a value for it. So that's what we're doing. If supply chain partners in the specific supply chain say, well, we really don't have any secrets, we can open up everything, that's fine. But if you don't want to do that and keep it more limited and keep it to yourselves, then that's fine as well. So it's the matter of how much trust is already baked in that in those supply chains, and the software is just following that level of trust and then builds on it, right? So the more experience you gain as a supply chain partners, the more you open up and the more you'll be able to share. And that's eventually what we aim for, open up and share more information throughout the supply chain so we can really build towards this more holistic approach of, more sustainable long-term commitments, etc.
Yeah. I have a question from Rain Morgan, who is asking, how do you actually calculate the living income in a certain area? Anyone?
Shall I try this?
Sure.
I think all three of you know the basics and has experience with it. Go ahead. Yeah.
So we, as Menno explained, we are working with a few partners, amongst other the Global Living Wage Coalition, an institute that focuses on benchmarking, doing benchmark studies in regions on what is a living income. But that's not the only thing we need to find out. We also need to find out what is the actual income. And this is what we do with KIT, a research institute that helps in this project to do field research, talk with the farmers, around 300 in this specific case, collect primary data from the ground, combine it with secondary data, and try to assess, okay, what is the actual current income based on coffee, and what is the other additional income? What are other revenue streams from for this specific family? And then based on that, we can assess what is the gap. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah. I'm looking at a question again from Ruud Vermeulen. I wouldn't be sure how to answer this myself. Maybe one of you guys knows. What sectoral approach could make it more effective so that not each company in itself has to calculate these living income gaps? Is something like that possible?
Yeah, well, I'm also looking at the coffee guys, but I think that should be what we're aiming for, right? So opening up the research, not do such research that is quite costly, and keep it for your own well-being. We should open up more, share more, and have this sort of pre-competitive data to share amongst others. It should not be a competitive advantage for companies to work on such information. But
do you agree, Menno? You're muted.
Sorry, I lost my cursor.
There you are.
No, I agree. Of course, I mean, this is a problem on a world scale that we're just scratching the face, and of course we need to share anything. I mean, this is just a start. We need to keep developing, and like I said before, it's getting the true data and facing the true problem gives you ideas how to tackle these problems and how to deal with it. And we all need to support each other. Like I said before, you need partnerships, you need joint efforts to make it happen. Otherwise, it will not happen. It's so easy to walk away from this and turn around and buy a kilo of coffee for €4 again and go on with your lives. But this is not what we're doing here. And this is also, I don't like to shout it too much what we're all doing here, because it's not a marketing tool that we're talking about here. This is real life. This is real stuff. And with real people and real products, and I always like to stick to that. And and if we can be a starter for others to do the same, I always take it as a compliment. So we've seen it in the past as well. And I don't see that as competition. I mean, we all have to. In the specialty coffee, we need to fight the big companies who are creating the trouble by feeding these low prices all the time.
Yeah.
And of course, business has been there for a long time, and it's not easy to switch overnight. But we need to start, and this is what we're doing.
Yeah. Bert, do you have another reaction to that? Short reaction, because time is almost up.
I think the primary goal of this project is to show that you can do it, that you can actually calculate a living income, put it into practice, and do it in a way that it's sustainable. I think that's very important. I do believe that it's a lot of work to calculate living wages, to make sure that you're on track all the time. So a sectoral approach would be a good thing. I think the Living Wage Coalition is also trying to do that, working together with Fairtrade International and I think Rainforest Alliance. These type of organizations are also important, and they also put a lot of effort in trying to establish living income or living wages in various countries. So hopefully these kind of organizations can also make sure that the data becomes available to other organizations. And I agree with the others that this is not a secret thing we're doing. This is not a USP. This is just very much necessary, and that's why we're doing it, but not for other reasons.
I like that as a final comment to this webinar. Which it is, because it's 6 o'clock, so we're going to build an end to this. I did see some more interesting questions in the chat, so I'm proposing that We'll come back to your questions in a blog post. We'll publish that next week. For everyone who missed their answer to their question, please keep an eye on our website, and we'll make sure to get back to that. Also, if you have anything else you want to comment or remark, you can get in touch always. You can find my email address and the contact page on our website. That's it for this afternoon. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks Sander, Menno, and Bert for being here as well.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.